Jesus answered and said unto them, Verily I say unto you, if you have faith and doubt not, ye shall not only do this which is done to the fig tree, but also if ye shall say unto this mountain, Be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, it shall be done. And all these things, whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing, ye shall receive. I want to talk this morning about a little bit about prayer and how faith plays into prayer, how it is such a foundational thing. Sometimes it doesn't. We don't put that in the forefront. When we pray, when we say that we're going to pray. We live in this fallen world. Yes, I walked out this morning and I was like, this is a beautiful morning, such a beautiful morning. The sun coming through the trees, it was just coming up at a little bit after 6:30, 7 o'clock, and I was just looking at it. We can find beauty in this world, even though it's fallen. It's still, all these things are still designed by God, and all these, we can appreciate the beauty of the world, and it's such an amazing thing, especially when all the the leaves are falling, and changing over and stuff, and it adds so much color. But the reality is it's still a fallen world. We're still living in this fallen state, this tainted, corrupted by sin. And it's been this way since the garden. The mankind was kicked out of the garden. That wonderful picture of God's direct fellowship with man in God's perfect world, and then the corruption of man's heart and exile of this intimate presence with God took place, all because of that temptation of the enemy, or as it calls it in Genesis, the Nakash, the serpent. So, a lot of times when we talk about prayer, when we talk about the things of the Spirit, we talk with people who are not always perceptive of the things of the Spirit and the kingdom. And when we get this question, why do bad things happen to good people? There's a ton of things that cannot be explained, and it's always kind of like one of those questions that you hear coming. You hear this coming. You want to prepare for it. It's like, the answer that you're going to give is not going to be sufficient for those who can't see in the Spirit. They don't have the eyes to see that answer that you're going to give. But with eyes that see of the Spirit, with the eyes set on the kingdom, we have that answer, and it's just because this is a fallen world, it's a fallen state, it's a corrupt place. But do you think that God wanted to kick mankind out of that perfect garden, out of that perfect place? He created us for relationships. We're social beings. You can see that all over the place. We require interaction. There's some more than others. We hunger for that interaction. I once had a teacher in high school, and there were two types of teachers in high school. You had the teachers, you had the coach teachers. And the coach teachers, they were always more fun. Their classrooms were always a little bit less organized, a little bit more, they'll let you get away with a little bit more, you can kind of talk in the back of the classroom. They wouldn't say anything. This teacher that I had, it was I believe advanced American history. And normally coaches didn't like to tackle the advanced classes, but this guy, he was pretty sharp. One day he was talking, it was about this time of year, and he was talking about going to the fair. He said, yeah, I like going to the fair. I just stand back and watch people. I like to watch people. He's like, people are crazy. He would stand there and watch people and how they interacted with each other, and of course this was before like cell phones were big, and so people actually talked to each other. They weren't walking around with their heads down. This is when people interacted. He said it's fascinating just to see how people talk to each other and how people interact, and And in the very first day of his class, he said, I've learned one thing in life. He said, it's all about relationships. And that's what he started his year on. That's the wisdom that he imparted into us. That it's all about relationships, and it was pretty much true. It's all about relationships because that's part of us. We have a natural inclination to want to interact and want to care about others. It is written into the fabric of what man is. If you don't care about anyone but yourself, it's not really an acceptable way to be. It's not seen as a healthy thing for someone to be secluded and just constantly all by themselves. There is actually a scientific, a medical term, that we use for those different situations, those different accounts, and someone who is driven to the extreme, you would call them like narcissistic or something. They only care about themselves. They don't care who they have to run over to get to the goal that they have. But it's basically that putting yourself before others, loving self more than your fellow neighbor, more than anyone else, caring about yourself. It's a twist on what love is. It's a direct opposite. This is a corruption that the enemy has brought into this world. So ever since the fall, we have this pesky little thing warring with our attempts to do the right thing. A lot of times we want to do the right thing. We want to pursue perfection, but we have this pesky little thing called our will. It's there. It's constantly warring with that righteousness that we want to obtain. But if you ever notice, and I fight this all the time, but if there is ever something that you should do, especially not for yourself, for someone else, I really need to do this for this person. It's so easy to come up with excuse after excuse. I just worked, a 12-hour day, or I just, I kind of got a cough. I hate to get around them. It's like you'll come up with just about anything, and that's what self is. Self is always wanting to do what self wants to do, what our will wants to do. So, saying all that, I just wanted to kind of set that up to speak on faith and how it relates to prayer, and what the mindset and the perception that we have to have. Whenever we see in the Bible an instruction or command on how to pray, there is normally a qualifier attached. It's small, sometimes only one word, but we'll gloss right over it if we're reading a verse, but it's what all of prayer hinges on. Without this qualifier, all we're doing is just. It would be no different than, you see the Disney movies, Aladdin in particular. It would be no different than, okay, ask me a wish and I'll grant it. And then of course, going back to that, that's a demonic spirit, a genie. But basically getting that wish and not having to give anything, just having to ask it, So you are not really having to do anything, you're just having to ask that, and it's granted to you, and usually there's some strings attached to that as well. So we'll go back to what I read earlier, Matthew 21, verse 21. Jesus answered and said unto them, Verily I say unto you, if ye have faith and doubt not, ye shall not only do this which is done to the fig tree, but also if ye shall say unto this mountain, Be removed, and be thou cast into the sea, it shall be done. And all things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing, ye shall receive. And that is the key, believing. If you have faith and doubt not, that's the key. That's what it all hinges on. If we don't have that, if we don't have the faith that it's going to come about, if we don't have a belief, a secure belief that these promises are guaranteed to us, then that it all falls apart. In Mark chapter 11, verse 24, therefore I say unto you, what things soever ye desire when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them. And in John, to go a little bit further, if ye, this is verse 15, or chapter 15, verse 7, if ye abide in me, and my words abide in you, ye shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. And of course, there the key phrase is abide in me, and my words abide in you. So these few accounts speak of a full surrender to God and His will. The faith that He is in control of whatever situation has to be fully committed. Then we must be firmly planted on that, because if we say, well, yeah, I do have faith, but there's that small word. I do have faith, but whatever follows that. We can't be flimsy. When we ask for something, when we take something before God, we can't be flimsy on it. He could do this. It's like, okay, these words start to have a really powerful meaning to us. When we stop and see exactly what we're saying. What if God doesn't answer my prayer? What if I look, God looks foolish? We can't go that far. No. Don't try to hang your disbelief on God. That's what I'm saying here. It's like, what if I look foolish? No. What if God doesn't do this? What if? That's a doubt. That's a disbelief. So you're already asking in disbelief. What are you expecting to receive? We have to stand on that mustard seed. And I was thinking about this morning. The mustard seed, a little round, tiny seed. Okay, so how do you stand on that? What does it look like? What does that look like? Yeah, and I was imagining this little stick figure trying to stand with one toe on this mustard seed. And I'm like, it's really hard. It's really hard to stand on that mustard seed. But the more you try to stand on that mustard seed, the more you put your faith, I'm going to stand on this mustard seed. This is my faith. I'm standing on it. God grows that mustard seed. It becomes as big as a basketball. You're okay, I'm trying to stand on it, and I need more. So the bigger it gets about the size of a car, and I can stand on it a little bit better, and it'd be a lot better if I had actual animation up here or something. That would be nice, but the more God grows that faith, the easier it is to stand on it. The more sure of a foundation you have, you're not so worried about falling off of the faith because you have a firm foundation. You have a sure footing. So we have to stand on that faith. We have to have that foundation. We have to shore up that foundation, and God has to grow. We have to ask Him, help my unbelief. Please give me that strength to stand. And that happens through fellowship. That happens through relationship. That happens through studying His Word. That happens through experience as well. That faith will grow. In Hebrews chapter 11, this is going to be in the Amplified. So. Verse 1, now faith is the assurance, title deed, confirmation of things hoped for, divinely guaranteed, and the evidence of things not seen, the conviction of their reality. Faith comprehends as fact what cannot be experienced by the physical senses. I like the way that the Amplified puts that. It underlines the assurance, and what hope is, and how faith is not represented in a physical form, but when you put that faith in what God says, it shows physical results. You know, you can see it's like the wake coming off of a speedboat. You know, you can see the result of placing that faith. And then a few verses down in verse 6, but without faith it is impossible to walk with God and please Him. For whoever comes near to God must necessarily believe that God exists and that He rewards those who earnestly and diligently seek Him. There's that qualifier, without faith. You know, that's the cold hard truth there. You know, without faith, it is impossible to walk with God. It's not just hard. It's not just difficult. It's not just something that is going to take some time to do. You know, it's like, I got to train myself to walk with God without faith. You know, you can't do it. You got to have faith. But without faith, it is impossible. There's no possibility of walking with God and pleasing Him. That's strong words, isn't it? You know, it's very strong. Going on to Deuteronomy, chapter 7. Verse 7. The Lord did not love you and choose you because you were greater in number than any other peoples, for you were the fewest of all peoples, but because the Lord loves you and is keeping the oath which He swore to your fathers, the Lord has brought you out with a mighty hand and redeemed, brought you from the house of slavery, from the hand of Pharaoh the king of Egypt. Therefore know without any doubt and understand that the Lord your God, He is God, the faithful God, who is keeping His covenant and His steadfast loving kindness to 1,000 generations with those who love Him and keep His commandments. Therefore know without any doubt and understand that the Lord your God, He is God, the faithful God. You know, God is a God of integrity. What He says, He will do. What is in His Word. I mean, this is a representation of who God is. He can't transgress His own nature. This is something that He is. He is true. He is faithful. He is going to do these things that He has promised. It's really up to us to place that faith in that, you know, because if we don't, then we don't receive these things. We don't receive any of these things that He's promised to us. Let's go back to the Gospels in Mark chapter 9. Verse 22, and oft times it hath cast him into the fire and into the waters to destroy him, but if thou canst do anything, have compassion on us and help us. Jesus said unto him, if thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth. And straightway the father of the child cried out and said with tears, Lord, I believe, help mine unbelief. And this is one of these words, you know. If you can't do anything, you know, have compassion, you know, if you can't, you know, and then Jesus said, if thou canst believe, if you can't believe, then that all things are possible to him that believeth. So God is called us to be a peculiar people, wholly set apart. He requires from us all that we have so that He can give us all that He has for us. Everything that we ask shall be given unto us if we have faith that God will do it, not can. There's no place for can in prayer. You know, I was thinking about this morning. You know, I just thought, can you? If you can, you know, could you? Would you? You know, it's like, I will. That's what He's saying to His people. I will. You just have to believe. You have to put your faith in me. Absolutely. You know, an absolute faith is required for these promises. There's no hint of wavering is tolerated. It's not tolerated at all. So it's a very powerful thing when you start thinking about the way you say things. You start thinking, okay, I don't want to use this word because that puts flexibility out there. That puts like a doubt, and that puts an inherent disbelief or unbelief out there. And I don't want to use those words, because if we fully believe that He has promised these things to us, then there's no room for that. Jesus Himself told His disciples that they would go and do greater works, but it's a fully committed to the faith thing, and we have that same promise. We can go out, we can do greater works, but it's Him doing those works through us. We have to have a firm foundation. We have to completely be in agreement with His will, and we have to not allow any of those words into that vernacular. We can't allow that. So in Genesis 5, verse 21, and Enoch lived 65 years and begat Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God after he begat Methuselah 300 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years, and Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Can you just imagine, the amount of just complete surrender and just a complete living by faith and alone? Can you imagine just being so focused on God that you just walk with Him? Just walk with Him. He takes you. And just raptures you right there, and you're gone. Can you imagine that? I have a hard time imagining that, because it seems like especially in today's day, we kind of, everybody wants to move away from the spiritual in public life. We got to get this out. We don't need this. Let's put all of our trust over here in the white coats of science and do this. And then it's leaving almost a vacuum where, there's not going to be a vacuum. Something's going to fill that vacuum. So it's like everybody's wanting to push the spiritualness of God and Christianity out, but something's coming in and filling that spot, that space, that vacuum. So, I just couldn't imagine just constantly living in that absolute faith and walking so closely with God that He just takes you. That would be an amazing way to live, and that it needs to really be the prize that we strive for, that goal that we reach for. But and I know that there's a lot of sickness. There's a lot of things that go on that we want to grab on to that that promise that He has of healing, and that promise He has of leading you through something that's scary, that's really uncertain, and we still have that small voice of our will wanting to pull us back. Well, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't pray that way, because you want to leave a little bit of room you don't want. It's like, you're afraid because you're afraid to step out, and yeah, everyone's afraid to step out. God asked you to step out on the ocean. Are you going to do it? Well, if we have that faith that's focused on God, yes, we will. But we see our circumstances, and we like, okay, well, I've got to account for this, because this is not possible. I've got to account for this over here. This is not possible. So I need to calculate how I'm going to do this, how I'm going to get to God, because this is all impossibilities here, and how am I going to walk across the water, and the visual of Peter just stepping out, without thinking, I've just got to get to Him. This is how it's going to happen. I'm going to step out, and I'm going to walk to Him. He steps out, and then he looks around. He's like, wait a minute, you know, what's holding me up? He starts thinking about, okay, the physical realm. What's holding me up? Boom, he starts to sink. You know, it's like when we start taking our mind off of Christ and looking at our circumstances, that's the hindrance that we often see, and even in prayer, you know, with everything that we have that we lift up to Him. If we leave any space for can or could or if or what if or anything like that, you know, that's where the power of prayer falls apart. You know, it's just at that point we're just babbling. You know, there's no power in it. You know, and I think that one of the most important things is to ask for Him to help our unbelief, because, you know, we live in this physical world that we can see, and we know we can see the spirit too, to those who have eyes to see the spirit realm. But that physical is just so overpowering sometimes. You see those circumstances, and it's just something that blocks us, that stands in our way, you know, and so that needs to be our prayer, you know. Lord, help our unbelief, you know, just as the man said that had the son, you know, Lord, I believe, help thou mine unbelief.